how President-elect Trump can erase some of the stains of the Obama administration and make our Second Amendment great again. I'm Alex A.K. Kincaid. Welcome to the AK Show. This is Alex A.K. Kincaid. Welcome to the AK Show. What is the worst gun control law in the country that you think President-elect Trump should focus on fixing?
Existing at federal level?
Federal or whatever he can pass federally to affect the states.
Well, he had an extensive policy page and followed it all year long. It'd be nice to see a federal preemption of magazine bans. I'd like to see a repeal of the gun-free zones, because every time there's a mass murder and guns have been used, almost every time, it's in a gun-free zone, because the criminal doesn't fear that they'll be stopped.
Right.
I'd like to see national reciprocity,
Right.
so that states with an agenda that are violating people's rights through infringement of giving a permit can be superseded. Make it basically national shall issue, as long as you meet the background check. You have to give fingerprints, no criminal record. It's extensive to get
A concealed carry.
Yes.
Yeah. Those are some good ones.
Yeah.
I think you hit the highlights.
Yeah. There's plenty to do, so we're going to get to work.
So I, like so many other Americans, woke up the morning after the election, and it was like this sun had come out fresh and new, and I just couldn't believe that we have this opportunity now to live free of the Obamas and the Clintons. And when I say live free, I mean they're kind of out of the picture, but they did leave some stains, and a lot of the damage that has been done over the last few years to our Second Amendment needs to be fixed. And there's been a lot of talk about President-elect Trump's Second Amendment Council. He apparently has put together a group of people to help advise him and help him lead the nation in a way that would restore the Constitution and the protection that we are supposed to be afforded as gun-owning Americans in this country. What actually can he do? I've received a number of inquiries from people asking me about different things, and so some of the next shows that we do are going to talk about some of the changes that can be made to the laws that currently are in place. But today I just wanted to generally broad brush some of the issues that we've seen and that can be fixed, and at least we can have a leader who can help lead Congress and hopefully appoint someone to the United States Supreme Court that we can be proud of, who certainly won't be Justice Scalia, but maybe close, maybe be a constitutional conservative, a judicial conservative, who will adhere to what our founders believed in when they drafted our Constitution. I have a quote that I wanted to read to you that was issued by the Brady campaign just after the election as well, and they said, "Although we are incredibly disappointed that a candidate who ran his campaign on a message of hate, violence, intimidation, and fear will be the next president of the United States, that won't stop us from fighting with everything we've got for the safer America we all want and deserve." Lovely. Well, you know, it's not the law-abiding Americans who own firearms or who want to own firearms that are causing the problem. But of course, we have some issues in this country that need to be resolved. And first up, what are the three top things that I see that our new president can help change? How can he make the Second Amendment great again? First of all, we need an appointment to the Supreme Court that will support all of the Constitution, including the Second Amendment. Right now, we've seen over the last few years states pass bans on certain rifles, on ammunition. We have background checks on ammunition purchases now, a 30-day waiting period in California. And we've seen cases across the country that have been decided one way or another based on what the judge believes. So out of California arose a case where gun owners wanted to carry concealed, and it's been appealed now and heard twice by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and the court said, guess what? We don't think the Second Amendment gives you, the people, any protection to carry a concealed firearm. We think that the Heller case, which was decided by our Supreme Court in 2008, means you have the right to have a handgun in your home. Exactly what Justice Scalia wrote in that opinion, and we aren't going to give you any more protection than that. So California, of course, bans all types of firearms, lots of restrictions, 10-day wait to purchase, 30-day wait now on ammunition purchases, starting in January of 2018. And across the country, you could actually have the same set of facts be decided in a different court, like the question of whether you have the right to carry concealed, might be decided by a court in another state or another jurisdiction if it's appealed, and they may say, yes, you are protected and you do have that right, whereas the Ninth Circuit said you don't. If we can have a Supreme Court that will adhere to the Constitution, they could hear a case like that. It can be appealed again to the United States Supreme Court, and we may get a decision that gives us a law across the land that says, yes, the Second Amendment protects you not only in your ability to own a handgun in your home, but also in your ability to carry those firearms outside your home and protect yourself against the criminals, which of course is what most of us would like to do. We're not criminals. We want to protect ourselves from the criminals. So that's one issue, of course. Let's have a Supreme Court that will get rid of bans, that will protect us in every way in our ability to defend ourselves, that won't allow these silly state laws that have popped up. And that brings me to number 2 on the list, which is we have seen, while Obama has been in office, we have seen states pass law after law that restrict us in our Second Amendment protection. States are saying you can't have certain size magazines, you can't have certain kinds of firearms. In one case, we have a district that says you can't even have empty ammunition casings. And law enforcement have been going after and prosecuting people in Washington, D.C. for having ammunition or ammunition casing, empty shells, when they aren't residents there and they don't have the proper licensing. That's not harming anyone to do that, of course. That isn't going after a real criminal. That is an absolute waste of our taxpayer money, and it's not affecting the crime rate. People are somewhat surprised still when I mention to them that while President Obama was in office, he sent Vice President Biden out to states to meet with state officials and to talk about what kind of gun control could be implemented in the states. Of course, this was because Congress was stopping him from passing anything federally. So he was looking for another avenue of attack. And what we saw during his administration was that our rights were affected not by Congress, not even by these silly executive actions that he kept talking about, and people applauded because they felt really good, like he was doing something. But we saw state governments pass law after law restricting us in our ability to own firearms and to defend ourselves. So what could President-elect Trump do? Hey, how about send out the vice president or someone else to talk to state officials about all the crazy nonsense that was passed and how we can fix it. What things can we do in Congress? What things does the court need to decide in an effort to restore our Second Amendment rights? Many state houses, many state legislatures still are in the hands of anti-gun liberals who want to take away the Second Amendment. But we can certainly be proactive. We can find out what all has been done. Let's make some priorities. Let's decipher these laws, and let's get started on eliminating them. Number 3 on my list, how many of you are aware that many of our laws are made by unelected bureaucrats? We have a rulemaking process. We have rulemaking at the state level. We have rulemaking at the federal level. And one of the biggest rules that came out that affected gun owners was a rule that said if you want to purchase a short barrel rifle, a short barrel shotgun, a silencer, also known as a suppressor, or a fully automatic weapon, not only do you have to pay a tax and you have to undergo the normal background check, now you also are going to have to send a notice to your chief law enforcement officer, which they can throw in the trash. They don't have to keep that record, but you're going to have to send it. And no matter what, you are going to have to send in a photograph and fingerprints and have a separate background check conducted. And the wait right now is about 12 months. So this was not a law passed by Congress. This was a process created by a government body. It was signed into law. It's unelected bureaucrats that are writing things like Rule 41F, over 200 pages of bureaucracy and rules and restrictions that are being placed, again, not on criminals, but on law-abiding gun owners like you and me. And we need a leader who's going to prevent that kind of action. This is a rule that comes out of a 1934 law that has in large part been replaced by a 1968 law. The National Firearms Act isn't doing anything to prevent crime. We already have a background check system that comes out of the Gun Control Act of 1968. We don't need to pay a $200 tax for certain kinds of firearms and create this registry of gun owners who purchase certain firearms. So, can President Trump make the Second Amendment great again? And I know many of you sure hope so. And I know this election has been emotional. Many people voted more for the candidate that they didn't want than the candidate that they thought was really going to make a change. But it is a blessing, at least, and I hope you feel this way too, that we have hope now. It may not have been your first choice, but at least there's some hope. And we know that with Hillary Clinton, there was no hope. God bless you, and thank you for watching the AK Show. This is Alex AK Kincaid, and thank you for watching the AK Show.